Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk animated shows and movies here. Find everything about us at overlyanimated.com. I am your host, Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hey, y'all.
And Alex Bonilla.
Hello.
Today we are talking the somewhat recent Netflix animated series, Carol and the End of the World. That came out last month on Netflix. A limited series.
Says Netflix 45 times.
Yeah, which means they don't have any pressure of renewing it, so they love that. And drama, comedy, dramedy, you know. I don't know. What would you guys say?
These words are meaningless. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, it's like there was a big thing about The Bear being a comedy.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know
shows.
what these words mean.
Yeah, I just think notable that this is not like a straight comedy like you might expect for a show that looks like this or something, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. So, we came out last month, so been a little bit. We are going to be getting into everything from this show, which I think we will probably be pretty positive on and is very unique, so I'd recommend checking it out over on Netflix. We're going to be getting into spoilers for all of the series for Carol and the End of the World with an ampersand. And
there are spoilers, so if you haven't watched...
Yes. Do you want to do a spoiler-free first? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to recommend this show to people.
Okay, we can do a quick overall spoiler-free. Yeah.
Is it a spoiler that the world is going to end?
I would say no, based on the title.
No.
Yes, I'd say. Now, does it actually end? I guess that would be a spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that being said, Delaney, high-level spoiler-free thoughts on Carol and the End of the World.
So kind of like what Dylan was saying about you don't really expect a more serious show with this animation style. This is actually like a really interesting show. And I think it goes in some really interesting directions. I really enjoy it. And there's not really anything else out there that's like this or has been. You know, you don't usually have a show that's about a middle-aged woman and she's like a pretty normal middle-aged woman. And, you know, and the main characters are not conventionally attractive. And I think there's just a lot of it. Like, the show is just really interesting, especially the show had to have been developed during COVID. And you can kind of see that when you're watching it. And then I think it also has a lot to say about as we face down climate disaster. So I think it's a really interesting show. And then also, despite the fact that it's about the end of the world, it's actually kind of a cozy show, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, nice. We'll expand upon as well. I agree, though. Pretty.
Oh,
cozy.
and what I told Dylan when Dylan was watching, it gets less depressing. So you can watch it, and you're gonna be, and if you're like really down, you can take a break. It gets less depressing. I promise.
Yeah, I think depending on your perspective, probably does get less depressing. Nice though, Alex. What do you think? Spoiler free about the show.
Yeah, this show came out at an interesting time because we've had like a couple of adult animated drama shows come out in recent times. Like this comes around the same time as Scavenger's Reign came out. Fire on Mars was also a couple in the summertime, and like this feels like. It feels like a not a golden age, but like it's been nice to see more of these animated series allowed to stretch their wings a little bit and not have to be full on adult comedies. I feel like of those three, Carol is the one that's spoken to me the most in terms of using Delaney's words of like it is a cozy show. It's the most wholesome of them, but also like it is treating these emotions. Like with the respect that they deserve. And I think that it is a perspective that you just don't see a lot of, because the idea of like a story that takes place in the apocalypse, there's a lot of media about that. And I feel like this particular take on it is not one you see that often. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that a decent chunk of this takes place in like an office setting, and there are a lot of office bureaucracy type shows out there, especially in animation in the past like 5 years. But I think that this one has also a slightly different take on it than you would normally see from shows that from other animated shows that use the office setting. So like it's using these very well trodden starting points and looking at them from a very different lens than I'm used to, and ones that like resonated with me a lot. So I was just like very surprised by how much I ended up enjoying it, because I did come into it a little bit skeptical, but I would also heartily recommend it, because I do think it kind of got lost in the holiday season, and the fact that it has end of the world in the title. It's like I'm tired. I think reasonably speaking, a lot of people are tired of end of the world stories, but I think that this show actually has a slightly different take on it than you would think, given the title up front.
Nice. Yeah. I actually love apocalypse esque stories. I seek them out, and yeah, I think this is so different from basically anything else. It's kind of scenario for the apocalypse, and most of all, its perspective that it has on what's going on. I also really love the show, and I think most notably, I love its perspective on kind of like general. I don't know, what I see is kind of the main theme of like feeling outside of normative behavior in society, and I think definitely deeply relatable probably to many people from different aspects, and Carol in general, very relatable, big mood in a lot of aspects.
He's so relatable, it's ridiculous.
And yeah, I just think it goes in a lot of interesting formats, type of episodes, and maybe some interesting directions. But I think just most of all, just feeling like a view of society that you might have feeling heard by this show, I would say, is the main kind of cathartic aspect of it, to me at least. And I agree, it's very unique. I also do feel like watching this, I'm like, how was this greenlit is the type of reaction I have, which is an incredible compliment, which I also thought during Scavenger's Reign and Pantheon. So we have gotten some like really great adult animation. I'm very happy that these shows exist. And yeah, maybe this show has even one of the most unique perspectives out of all of them. I'm glad it's animated. It's like the type of show that doesn't need to be animated, but I feel like adds a lot because of that. And yeah, excited to talk more about some of the themes and the world from the titular world from the show. So we all recommend it. We're gonna put up a spoiler warning for all of the season of Carol and the End of the World. Make sure you've seen it, then come back and stop listening if you do not want to be spoiled. So Delaney, any spoiler or more in-depth aspects you wanted to talk about at the top here?
Well, I guess something I did want to say was, as someone who bounced off Tuca and Birdie, the show to me feels very similar but more grounded than Tuca and Birdie. Not just in that like everyone's actually human, but like conceptually. And I think the shows have very similar humor.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But yeah, that was kind of my big reaction when I first started watching it.
Yeah, the show is that I think Tuca and Birdie is in the I was in the mold of the BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty's, where like it's trying to throw jokes like every minute as possible. Whereas I don't think Carol is really falling into that temptation for most of its runtime, and it allows itself. I mean, Tuca had not a lot of quiet moments, but I think Carol especially it revels in like keeping things very muted for a while. So it's definitely a different speed of show compared to most of the adult animated comedies, even the great ones that are out there.
Yeah, I would say this is, for me, played mostly as a drama with some jokes in there. Like I didn't even particularly, even like the more absurd concept type episodes, I feel like they were much more serious than not.
Yes.
At least
No, I
for
think
me.
a lot of the humor in the show is situational and not like actual lines. It's just more like what you're watching is like absurd.
Yeah. Alex, any more specifics you want to get into?
I honestly just want to talk about Carol's as a character because I think that that's like one of the biggest draws to this show. The idea of focusing it is a drama, but it's also a comedy. But focusing that kind of show around this very introverted older woman doesn't say a lot. Like it keeps her sentences very short and concise. To focus a comedy around that kind of character is a turn that I don't think a lot of shows do because you can't do the throw a joke every minute with that with that kind of a character. You have to make use of the elements around her, and you have to like fit the show to make sure that her personality stays consistent all the way through. And just like I don't get to see those kind of characters in these kind of shows very often, and that I am an introverted person who feels like some want to make connections and yet I feel held back at times. And so this is like a very rare character that I see that aspect of myself in that doesn't get shined very often. And so I fell in love with Carol very quickly, and that's partially why in the second half of the show, where like it starts to drift away from her, we get a lot more focus on the other characters. Well, there's still good moments in there. It definitely. I mean, as with like every show that has like a charming main character, when you go away from it, it's like, where'd they go? Why we're spending a little too much time away from why I first liked this show in the first place. So like Carol is just such a fun character to follow her navigating this scenario and like see how she ends up bringing people together without like really breaking too far away from where she started. It was just a very cool experience to see that happen over the course of the 10 episodes.
Nice, yeah. I would agree with it's a good point with her the show drifting away from her in the second half. And I guess the only pushback I'd have is that I think because we spend less time with her at the end, maybe the end result feels a little bit less cathartic than it could have in terms of her journey and like where she ends up, but it's still really nice. And I think it's still really well done. Yeah, Delaney, anything else on Carol, the character?
As someone who hates Applebee's.
I didn't expect you to start with that phrase.
I know.
What do you have against Applebee's, first of all?
It just sucks.
It has terrible food.
Like
the drinks are always.
What about the Shark Bowl? You guys know about the Shark Bowl?
I've had a Shark Bowl, but not at Applebee's.
That's shocking. Did the show make you love Applebee's?
A little, but then also it's just hilarious to me. And also Applebee's is like a running joke in my family because like we all hate Applebee's except my brother who like really likes it. Like when I went to New York City in high school, I was like, y'all, there's a 2-story Applebee's. And my parents were like, what a waste of space.
You did the Times Square Applebee's?
Like I had to send a picture to my parents and they were like, wow, what a waste of space. Like that's like, so there's like this lore in my family with Applebee's, and then like for her to be obsessed with Applebee's, but then at the same time, like I really connect to this like introverted, I think kind of autistic coded character where she like just goes and sits in the empty Applebee's.
Yeah. It's
just like like Alex was saying, like she's just so relatable.
And like the thing is it doesn't have to be an Applebee's, right?
No,
it's
it
just
doesn't.
like where it could be just like a corner cafe in a different show. But like the idea of like having a safe space to retreat to, but also like there's people around that are like just some semblance of routine. And that's like one of the themes of this show, right? But like it's not a bad thing to have to like feel like routine is something that anchors you and like makes you feel like you're living life, like that like keeps you going and like gives
really,
you us.
It's like, okay, so like let's talk like COVID hasn't left. COVID's not over. But, if we want to talk about like the first, 2 years of COVID and people are in their house and everyone's making bread. It kind of feels like that, where everyone's like, everyone got really into their hobbies and this, and you're just, but then also on the flip side, like, I bet people were missing Applebee's in COVID. Like, that sense of normalcy that's completely gone because the world's ending.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think that's also something I think this show does a really good job. Honestly, this show feels really realistic to what would happen if this sort of apocalypse was occurring.
Yeah, to want to get into that for sure. And I have my own relation to this with COVID, but I definitely relate to Carol, but I also feel like it's a testament to like her character that I feel like I also would react very differently in this situation with a lot of things, and yet I still like relate to her emotions and the experiences. Like, I definitely would not be wanting to go into an office, at the end of the world, or pay bills. But I think she conveys really like the feelings behind all of this in that situation that we're talking about. Yeah, and that being said, what I definitely would also not be is what the show portrays as most people in the world. I don't know, I think of them as the Carpe Diem people.
The fact that they keep yelling Carpe Diem is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then they graffiti her car.
Yes, that was good. With the
like,
Carpe Diem on her car. And by the way, I love that at some point she just gets a motorcycle and then rides a motorcycle for the rest of the show.
Okay, so that's part of the image of her riding the motorcycle. Like, I've been waiting for this show to come out. I've been so excited.
Because of the motorcycle?
Because, like, because I was like, what is she doing? Like, why is she on the motorcycle? And then to find out, like, the most of the time she's on the motorcycle, she's driving around looking for toner. Like, what an incredible, magical thing.
It's great. And by the way, one aspect of the show I really love is the very casual and but still significant buildup of like how this world works and like what's going on at the end. I feel like it's interspersed extremely well throughout the season. I still have questions
also,
on
like,
how everything's
like when as she's starting to figure out the distraction, like this like extremely ominous, like when she opens the drawer and they've given her a gun.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that actually.
Yeah, that's such an escalation, and I feel like there are jumps like that, but like for most of the show, like things feel very low stakes. It's like
yes, but like the first like 3 episodes, you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Then that one guy dies. But I guess that was fun. Oh, and I also want to shout out Donna and Luis. I feel like once we get the
Donna
trio
is
of
my
them,
favorite character.
Yeah, I really love Donna too.
Donna.
Yeah, and I also relate a lot to Donna, which we'll talk about. But I think that once we get the trio of them in episode 3, I feel like the show hits a high point for me for a few episodes with the 3 of them. But yeah, we can bounce around. But I was talking about the Carpe Diem people. That's definitely the aspect of Carol I relate the most to, and all of these characters, them just not fitting into the kind of expected or normative behavior that everyone seems to have of needing to live your life to the fullest, which they identify by like traveling or doing specific hobbies and stuff. But I agree that does feel very realistic as a situation that would happen.
Well, and that's kind of what has happened when we talk about like, we're not in a post-COVID world, but talking about like post-lockdown, which we didn't do anyway, but like the revenge travel.
Yeah, people feeling the need to go out and do something, finding meaning in that. And I think that this show kind of arguing that there's meaning in more things than the typical type of activities that society would ascribe to having meaning. And in fact, maybe those people doing the things like traveling over the worlds in a very empty way are actually less meaningful, you could argue. The show is trying to say. I find
especially like everyone lining up to like climb Mount Everest.
Yeah, or the friends came back from Tibet, clearly didn't get anything.
Oh
from the
my
experience.
God, that whole thing.
Clearly got a very touristy type of nonsense.
I will say the translations were so funny.
Yeah, that was good. So I find all this, just the feeling of And I think there's many ways to apply this, but the feeling of not relating to the way everyone else is behaving.
Yes.
And also specifically like not being a person that will just so easily because of it could be because of circumstance or because of you feel like who you are, but just not being like subscribing to the typical societal behavior in any aspect.
Yeah.
I think this is a very important type of feeling that I feel like is not spoken to by a lot of shows, you know?
Right. Well, it's kind of like, well, I think there's a lot of shows that drill down to, you know, how do I want to express it? Like, you're okay, like, the way you are, and, like, find other weirdos, and being weird is cool. Like Owl House, for example, which is, you know, great message, good stuff. But then also what Alex was talking about, like, and I mean, I feel this way all the time, and especially like growing up, and even still now as an adult, like there's kind of like a wall between like yourself and then like other people, and you're like you don't really you're like, and it's just very much outside looking in, and I don't think we get a lot of that in like the adult world of, you know, of animation, and even because even then, even Carol has to kind of push a little, you know, to find Donna and Luis, and
yeah, there's like another layer on top of it where first of all it's like expressing how you're not fitting into the people that are taking the typical action, but then it's like finding your own type of meaning within that lack of, and I think the show kind of shifts to that, which is really good too. But I love that point of like there are a lot of shows that are like it's okay to be different and finding your found family among your weirdos and stuff. But but it's like beyond that. It's not just that you're like innately weird. It's like, okay, but is it who I am, or is it just that I don't want to like go to parties on the weekend, or like whatever expectation there is, you know, go to happy hour, which ironically is what they do. And you know, feeling just it does feel a little different than just being like accepting being weird, just like accepting not prescribing to the norm, but also just like not finding meaning in prescribing to the norm, you know, like because I think that's what's hard. It's like, oh, I'd love to just go traveling and feel happy from that in the apocalypse, but I just don't, you know. And all the ways in which the show hits on that, especially early, you know, I think with her parents, and by the way, tons of people just naked randomly throughout the show.
I think
should we have said that in the non-spoiler session?
I guess we should have.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's also something that's funny is because you would expect something like that to just be a gag, but then it's not, and then other people are naked, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's like it's people. It's one of the ways in which you're finding meaning. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna not wear clothes anymore. Like, sure.
Also, I mean, if you're really old, I mean, just do whatever you want. Like,
yeah, old people can do that now, I guess.
Yeah,
that's the demographic that nudist colonies are primarily.
You're right. You're right.
Is that true? Is it for super old people?
It is.
Yeah.
Why do you both know?
Why
about
do you
this?
know that?
Look it up later. But I do want to mention too, in terms of the show's portrayal of like the difference in how people find meaning. I think you see that most clearly in the fourth episode of of Carol's sister, because like there it's like putting you front and center. Like these are two very opposed viewpoints that having to like meet each other in the middle somewhere, like one side has to is trying to like understand like why are you like this, but then and they eventually get there, and there's a particular line that I remember when Elena is talking with her Elena being Carol's sister is talking with her friends in Spain, and she like calls out that like Carol knows what she wants, and like that I feel like is a very important line, because I think when you're initially watching this, you could fall into the trap of being like Carol is not really going out because she is depressed or she is like directionless, right? But like you do see through her actions, like she is taking actions to get where she wants to go in terms of like I want to like find something that keeps me grounded. I want to find friends. I want to like make these connections, and you see this throughout the show. And I think there like makes it clear in text like this Carol is doing these things because like she finds meaning in them, and she's like actively working towards something, even if it doesn't look that way to people who have a totally different view on how they make their lives worth something. That this is what makes Carol's life worth something to her, and she's doing it. And I think that's part of why that episode is very powerful and one of the highlights, in that like it's making very clear like, but I think that the show is not really judging either side. Like I think that it shows all these people like going all out, and I don't think it's really like saying that's a bad thing. It's just there are different paths to satisfaction here.
Yeah, I think I would generally agree with that. Yeah, and I think it maybe needs to tilt a little in one direction to counteract the typical societal view. But I think it's mostly not judgmental. But I totally agree with that episode 4, and I think that was a great analysis of it. Personally, I just even more deeply than Carol in general, deeply related to this sibling dynamic. It portrayed in episode 4, and I feel like that was me and my brother so much. Just having and with the parents too, just having like family that's like feels like you need to behave or find meaning in certain aspects, specifically going out and traveling and doing things, and then you not feeling like that, and that being a disconnect. And then the end of the episode being like she shouldn't meet Carol on her level, and it's nice that she kind of went and spent time with her instead of being in Spain. Yeah, I really loved all of that and how it was portrayed. Quickly with the parents, since we were with the in the throuple, which is a whole other thing, but the surfing thing with Carol needing to lie and present her the fake story of her surfing in order for them to be okay with what she's doing because it fits into what they think of as acceptable behavior at this time in the world. Yeah, I thought that was very effective communication. And then they expound upon it in the surfing episode, which I think we can get to later, because I want to discuss what was that episode. I'm not 100% sure. But, and I also wanted to say, I'm talking generally in terms of like feeling, in any situation, feeling like you're not feeling outside of what people think you should do. But I also think specifically the show going in on this notion that you need to go out and live some sort of big, like grand, showy life, traveling, partying. I think there's specific messages like, it's not like that's bad, but you don't need to do that. And I think that that's really good that the show is saying that specifically. This is an example, and I don't have the full context, but I do want to cite it because it's a recent thing. But I saw a clip of the finale of Molly McGee, and kind of spoilers, but there's like there's like a section that's like, Scratch feels deep regrets for not having gone out and done things and like traveled and stuff. And I feel like that's more of the typical perspective, and I'm sure there's validity in how that was portrayed and everything. And I think there's validity in that messaging normally, and in people should still go out and do it, like not be hindered by anxieties and stuff. But I just adore this show taking the opposite route, specifically, and like, no, you don't need to go and do anything specifically to find meaning. And this relates back to the kind of love of the mundane aspect of the show. It's like, yes, you can just live your life in some subdued or whatever normal way that you feel is meaningful to you, and that's okay too.
And I think the difference between the two is, there's a difference between, like, obviously it's a tragedy if you wanted to and were unable. But if you don't want to, there's not something wrong with you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's not something wrong with you if you don't want to.
Yeah, and I think that's really what the show, the Carol is really fighting against, is that assumption that everyone needs to do this and experience this life-changing, blah, 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 the thing, the stuff everyone says. Like, Carol has no interest in doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
or the feeling that, like, if you don't have that desire, that there's something wrong with that.
right,
like
exactly. Like,
yeah.
no. Like, or that somehow your world is smaller.
Yes, agree. And it's like there's nothing wrong with finding meaning and going out and like paragliding and do whatever all these people are doing. But I think the tragedy is that a lot of these people probably don't actually find meaning. They just find meaning in kind of following the expectation, is at least my perspective on it. And it's probably hard to separate.
Like, doing things is the only way to, like, experience or to come to find meaning.
Yeah. And I think it's bad. I think that this imposing on people is bad. And I also just think having this expectation can be destructive in situations like a pandemic, which I guess I can quickly give my perspective on this. And it's unfortunately probably not going to be super relatable to many people listening. But basically, I was like, I'm still in pandemic mode. COVID pandemic's not over in any way. And I'm still basically not doing many things. And just the experience of feeling like seeing all these people around you going and doing things. It's not this exact situation in the show, but just like this normative behavior is encouraging people to not take necessary precautions. And then you're sitting there like, what even are most people doing? What is the reality right now is basically my world. And I felt very seen in the ways that the show portrays that. Even if it's not the exact same situation, there are people going out and doing things, but that's not like why it's wrong or anything. But just the notion of, people's viewpoints and morals and things that might have been different shifting just because they feel the need to fit into what's normal behavior in society and seen as what they should be doing. Definitely feel like I've been living through that and been living through that. There's other themes too, but I kind of wanted to go back to the apocalypse of it all because we're kind of talking about people, how people behave in the apocalypse before,
and also this kind of like unique perspective on the apocalypse in that it's this isn't post-apocalyptic,
right? And it's like
apocalypse.
I haven't seen this scenario. It's like it's a known apocalypse that everyone knows the world's ending, and no one can do anything about it. And
it's like it's coming.
It's just coming in 7 months.
Yeah.
And first of all, I think people would try to like just shoot down the planet. And there was none of that, which I guess would have been a distraction from what the show is talking about.
Or we skipped past the part where they already tried that.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Which is so fascinating. Like the action movie is like, oh, let's shoot this down, and this is like the acceptance period. This show. But you could say many people aren't accepting since they're. Well, I mean, they are in their own way. I actually kind of
think the show overall goes through all stages of grief.
I think probably true. And probably true for different characters at different times. But yeah, just the notion of like, yeah, everyone knows the world's ending. And which, by the way, I feel like if this happens, I think the government's trying to hide it from people. And this is a great reason the show is animated and stuff. It's like, do you see the planet at all times? It's like looming. That's like such a unique thing. It's just physically looming there. No one can ignore it. And so that's why everyone has to. As such a unique apocalypse scenario, and then how it's like specifically the society functions of you learn the military is running the grocery store, I guess.
I'm sorry, the National Guard at Kroger. It's like
the guy like swiping the stuff. That was very funny.
And she's like asking him things about the groceries. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But then also that makes a lot of sense. Like.
Yeah, I agree. I think, probably the military is the only one who would have the
there's no
structure required to still do this. No work anymore, no school.
No school.
And you kind of slowly see how certain things are running. Like we see we drill into the cruise that they're going on, which I guess is only running because the one captain wanted to, but then he doesn't want to. I do have questions like who's running the airlines.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Not super answered. Who is running the trains they're operating?
You're asking good questions.
I think that they're showing Carol and this whole office finding meaning in work, and then maybe there are other groups like this out there in the
That would
world,
be nice.
keeping the
They
trains
really
running
like.
because
They
it's like,
really
oh, I'm
like.
being useful,
It's the army. It's the army.
or it's
Oh,
the army.
The army could be, but yeah, I feel like pilots would still have meaning,
Yeah.
and something. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about flight attendants, stuff like that.
I don't know. I feel like isn't that like why people become flight attendants is so that they can go places?
Yeah, but now you can just go anywhere. Yeah, well, and the show also doesn't
Well, you
really
still
get
have to be
into.
on a plane.
Yeah, the show doesn't really get into the economics of anything, class disparities. We don't really drill into that. I think that would be a big factor here.
Well, and then it's kind of like everything's meaningless. Like, so she has to go to Kroger and like buy food, but then, well, actually, I don't know if she actually pays for it, but but then she has to break into office like 25 Office Depots to get toner.
Yeah, is she paying for the stuff that like the guy's swiping it? So he's ringing it up, but
Yeah,
is
I
she
don't know.
paying?
I don't
How
know.
is money applied in the society?
Is there money like because
Well,
she was trying to pay that like loan and they're like you stop it.
Oh yeah, the bank guy's like, stop paying us. Yeah.
Well, and also I think in the cruise pirates scene that there is an allusion to the fact that money is no longer useful, which is why the pirates have changed their
They
objectives.
just want to be on the cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and what else from the world appealed to you guys?
I will. I don't think this is world building exactly, but I mean, the just in general the look of this show, like the
Yeah.
lighting and the music being used, it's very. It contributed to the apocalyptic vibes. I'm remembering in particular the scene where they're like helping the kid trick or treat, and you're going through all these like abandoned streets and houses, and like just everything going on in the background, just like very well done in terms of setting the tone of like it's a neighborhood that's functioning, but it's definitely very run down,
Yeah.
and like every all like the city scenes like her following the office lady to from the train into the office for the first time, like that's also like a very good looking scene. So I think it's one of I think you mentioned at the beginning like this could be a show that you could do that doesn't have to be animated, but like you would need a pretty good budget to make this in live action and with the amount of detail that they dedicate to just the look of this thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I think my what I thought of the animation, what my experience was, at some point I realized the show was really good looking, but I didn't know it. I didn't really know it at first, and I think that's because the people are kind of purposefully ugly in the show's style.
The character design is a little bit of a hurdle, I will admit.
Right, but I think it's like intentional for some reason, and then it's like, oh, actually, all the backgrounds and the design of everything is actually really good. And
Well,
the
it's
color,
like the scene of Kepler looming is gorgeous.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like seriously everything except for the people is really beautiful, and the people are beautiful in their own right. But I do think it's intentional because like Carol is supposed to be like not like overtly societally expected beautiful, right? And I think all our characters kind of are, and so I think it's kind of supposed to play into that.
One quick shout out to Carol's design. One thing I do like, her eyes are kind of look like teardrops, so it just like helps like really settle the like kind of sad impression at first glance before you actually get to know her. But like it's just the eye shape in particular stood out to me. It's like, oh, that's an interesting choice.
Nice, yeah. Should we go back to the themes? I feel like there's a few other main ones we haven't talked about. We definitely hit enough on the societally expected behavior. Anything else on like love of the mundane, Carol liking the routine? I did think we also talked about that a lot.
It's just so relatable, and it's like the want to reach for that during the apocalypse is like completely understandable.
I think we can like use that to segue into the way this show portrays the general office workplace as like it's showing. I wouldn't say it's showing it at its most ideal because like it does get into things like executive meddlery and whatnot, but like at the same time like it's showing that there is value to some people in that kind of environment of like this is an accepted way for people to like slowly get to know each other and forge connections in a way that you can't do in the outside chaotic world that is outside these walls. And that's a thing. I feel like a lot of office comedies are very cynical in how they view this, and I think to an extent rightfully so, because there's so much nonsense that happens with bureaucracy. But like it's interesting to see like the spotlight turned a little bit to be like, but like at the individual level, at the worker level, there can be some wholesomeness that you can derive from this.
And they talk about it, what they like doing. And when you can, kind of like the joys of this mundane work without the context of capitalism, because society has collapsed. Like they're just
That's
doing.
True. That's true.
And then also, as someone with like, I have OCD, like legitimate OCD, not when people are like, oh, blah blah blah. But like, I just so deeply relate to this man who needs to find out why his numbers aren't adding up.
And yeah,
too would spin. I was like, why? He has to figure this out before he dies.
You would spurn an entire cult around you for figuring out why.
It's just so relatable. I don't even know if he knows the world's ending. Like he just needs to figure this out.
Yeah,
like it's good. Amazing. Like to me, that it's like I think that's like the great because of this whole because we don't know what's going on yet, and you're trying to figure it out, and then to find out that it's literally just that is incredible.
Yeah, which we'll get into more. Yeah, the distraction, as they call it, the office.
Perfectly on the nose name for a place.
Which, I agree with the show, but it's interesting that some of the people call it the distraction, who are the ones being HR lady calls it the distraction. You are the distracted. Well,
that's what I think is funny is I legitimately think that's how the people coming in perceive it. And that's how they that's what they're doing. But the guy does not care.
That one guy, yeah.
Yeah, he's just
everyone accepts the appeal of what the guy is doing. But yeah, he started it. I also feel like it's commentary on office stuff, but I feel like a controlled setting. I feel like that's related to the mundanity of it, just the enjoyment of this controlled setting. Maybe similar to
what to expect.
Maybe like a podcast, getting on a podcast and going through an outline. Yeah. It has its appeal to me versus the uncontrolled social situations. But
try to get into a conversation at your Kroger's about Carol and the end of the world. See how that goes.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. With the guy scanning the stuff.
It's so funny.
Yeah, at the office setting, and then the Carol at some. I think when we get to, I guess it starts at episode 3 with her forming the connections with Donna and Louise. And then in 5, her learning the names. And then we end up in 10, where she's created this sentimental office culture. She ruins the emotionless distraction as HR lady investigates. And I guess that's maybe the last main theme that I see to get into, being the not shielding yourself against attachment. Whatever, the speech that Kathleen goes on at the end is... It's seen as a good thing, I think, where we end up with them. Why Delaney probably said it wasn't depressing at the end, because they're kind of happy in their own world, even if it also causes grief. Letting yourself feel, even if it causes pain.
It seems like people are kind of ignoring it. We're going to do all this stuff, and all of that's kind of a distraction too.
Yeah. Which is interesting, and one of the only reasons why, the people are not. They're no longer sealing themselves against emotion once they form these connections and stuff. So it's okay, going to the distraction was unhealthy in some extent because you're shielding yourself. But then I also feel like the people on the outside are also shielding themselves from attachment. Yeah. I think maybe the show is trying to say that too. People doing all these things, that's their own distraction, and they're really not forming these connections themselves. They're probably, a lot of them are pretty empty connections, just traveling to random places with these, the Tibet stuff, pretty empty in its own right. So I don't know, did Carol find the most meaning of it all through this?
Well, I mean, when you think about it, it's like a microcosm of life. Why do any of it if it's all just going to end? But then, these things are meaningful, even though we're all going to die. In this case, it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that a show that starts off with liking paying bills is valid ends up like with actually the most valid thing of it all is forming connections with other people. And I don't think I don't know, I didn't see it as like what we're saying at the end overriding anything else. I think it's just like also this is the journey they went on and found meaning in this, right, as well,
And also presumably she was lacking this when everything was normal because people generally are selfish and just do their own thing.
Yeah, but I kind of wasn't expecting this journey, and I do think part of it is like we're kind of following up on something in episode 5 and episode 10, and there's just like random episodes in between, like I was kind of saying before. But it still does is a through line, I think, throughout the episode, including episode 6, which I do think is a really good one. But with the holidays. And how about the ending on this theme? Because I think it's kind of the thematic through line of the ending. They're at the Applebee's, which I do like contrast to Carol sitting at the Applebee's alone in episode 1. They're all together at this Applebee's at the end. This is nice, they say, and then we kind of see the planet be closer than ever, and then that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's also, we see that HR director has left the report on the desk for the management to see. So, and there's like discordant music that's getting louder and louder as all this is happening until the abrupt cut to credits.
Yes.
So, like, I understand if you see this ending as like relatively wholesome given the overall themes, but I will say when I saw, I was like, I don't feel good about where this is going.
Like, are they going to fire Carol? Like, what
are they firing Carol? Are they like is the HR director going off? And also like I
thought the whole time the HR director was going to commit suicide. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Oh, okay. So if you're going with that expectation, then the ending's great. But yeah, I thought the choices being made in ending were like purposely like doing it so like you'd feel like a little bit
like
on edge. Like you wouldn't know exactly how to feel one way or the other with everything going on. But it was definitely a lot thrown in there at the end, which made like the cut to credits. So like, wait, that's it? That's where it goes? That's where it ends?
On the one hand, I want more, but then on the other end, you know what happens.
Yeah, they all die at some point, and it's not clear when that is. And I agree, it's kind of you don't know how to feel ending. In terms of HR lady, my read on it, I don't think any of this really matters. I don't think the show is saying it really matters. But my read on it was HR lady was converted, but she just can't commit fully, so she's still riding the train home alone. But her report would have said that like Carol's great or something. I feel like she would have included that.
Well, I don't think it really matters. Or it was going to be like, or she was going to take the blame or something.
Yeah, or she would have lied and said actually like Carol's like this ideal worker. By the way, side note, my favorite character is the managers in the show.
They're great.
I love the managers, the twins. I don't think we ever see how they get to the office in that episode.
No, which
which kind of makes it better. Like there's the mythical.
I think they just grew out of the ground.
I assume they were not actually management. They're just random guys that came in.
Yeah, I think so. That would be the assumption because like everyone left except the guy.
Yeah.
The thing that sticks out to me about them, it's so jarring in that last episode where they start cursing the HR director out. Like up until that point, they've been very like milquetoast. Like there, they just like amp up the aggression. It like felt so. Another thing that made that final episode feel so like on edge for me.
I agree.
When I rewatched the last 10 minutes, I was dying at them cursing into her. I thought it's very funny, but I think you can have both reactions. I probably did a different one the first time. I think they're so funny. I also think HR lady MVP at the end of the show. I think she's so good.
I just her narrating and then her having fun at Applebee's is so funny.
I ultimately do wish that the final episode was Carol perspective and not HR lady perspective. I agree with this kind of criticism that's brought up earlier, but she's really great, and it was a very good episode. And she's very funny.
Accurately portraying how karaoke sounds to other people.
Her singing karaoke was great.
So funny.
She got bingo. It
Oh
was a
yeah,
lot of
that
good
was my
stuff.
favorite. She like was like, "This is terrible," and then she got bingo, and she was like, "This is the best thing
That
ever."
transforms you. Bingo, yeah, bingo, another good mundane one to throw in. By the way, I think Applebee's is just like they're saying it's like the most boring restaurant. That's why it's
Yes,
chosen.
Yeah.
it's so funny. Like it's so good.
Yeah. Toss up TGI Fridays, Chili's. I feel like Applebee's probably the better choice.
I think Chili's has been memeified, so that's why you can't do Chili's.
I think Applebee's is memeified. I don't know.
Does Olive Garden fit into this? Or is that too high scale?
No, you're right.
No, I
I can't believe you just referred to Olive Garden as high scale.
I wouldn't say so. Now, Red Lobster, that's a different story.
Red Lobster be pricey.
But they have the biscuits.
The biscuits.
The biscuits, though.
No,
What does
also,
Applebee's have? At least Chili's has the fajitas.
they have the
What does
Dollarita.
Applebee's have?
They have the Dollarita that they make in buckets. That's
I
what
guess,
Applebee's
yeah.
has. Also, that's what. Oh, and the reason my brother goes to Applebee's is the wings, and I'm like, okay.
Really?
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think she made an Appletini at some point. I don't know if
Oh,
that's an
good.
Applebee's thing. Okay, how about
Okay,
that?
this is also a commentary on Applebee's that like any people off the street could just go in and run the Applebee's.
Yeah,
because
this is true.
there's nothing special about it.
This
To be
is
fair,
true.
that's how restaurants work. Like we just like people just work there, but
What a deep statement. That's how restaurants work. People just work there. I mean, that's true.
that's the title.
Yeah, if we're going to title the podcast, that would be the title. Okay, we'll title the podcast just if we're going to title it with
It's
a
gonna
quote.
be Applebee's.
Can we
Applebee's
talk-
the show.
Yeah, can we talk more about Donna and Luis? How about that?
I
People who
love
are there at the
Donna
end.
so much, and then Donna being like, okay, my favorite thing about Donna,
Yes.
and it's just so real, is her being like, why are you like? She was like, I'm gonna kill you. Like, why are you being so creepy? Like, Carol, stop looking at me. Like, what's in the bread, Carol?
Yeah. The banana bread, yeah, pretty
And then,
iconic.
Carol's like fantasizing about Donna being her best friend, which she does end up being, but like it's just so funny because Donna's like, you're being weird, like.
Yeah, I really liked that. I think episode 3 might be my favorite episode.
It's
the most,
really good.
most normal one, at least, of the
And then
normal
Luis
episodes.
is like just a straight up weirdo.
He's such a sweetheart.
Luis is my favorite.
I mean, he's great.
As a fellow queer Hispanic, I have no choice but to stand.
No, I was like, I mean, you have
Yes.
to. Like, it's completely like.
I do like when they
and a
when
cat
they
person. He really has fun with that little kitty at one point, and I was like, oh, this is me.
It's
The
good.
beetle.
Beetle brooch, which I can't. Okay, I should have looked for it. I assume he wasn't actually wearing it.
No,
but-
he was not wearing it. That's what's funny. Like, it's literally like they're like, I've worn it all the time, and everyone's like, I don't know what you're like. It's such a funny gag. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, that is really good. I think they're both great. And then I didn't expect it to be like a little trio team type of show. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if I was
Yeah.
expecting that.
I do think we could have done more with Luis. Like, I think Donna gets more
Yeah.
exploration.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's nice moments he calls his mom at some point.
Yeah, I'm having a party. Like, gee, yes, I'm still gay. That part made me laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, right before the thing where he has to exchange drugs for his cake, it was just
Yes.
for some reason that in particular really got me. Like, okay, this is a good gag.
Good.
Nice. Forgot about that one. I think we're talking about episode 6. I think that might be my favorite of the more high concept episodes, which I get because it features our characters, but it's like and this is another aspect of world building I was gonna bring up earlier, is people just be celebrating holidays at random times, since they won't get to that point of getting to it again.
Yeah.
So I liked that, the Donna's family
and
having
different
Christmas.
holidays too.
At the
Like
same
one's doing
time,
Christmas,
yeah.
one's doing Thanksgiving. Like it's all over the place.
Yeah,
And then
which
also-
that feels right. But you just do your favorite holiday whenever.
Just because it's in this episode, my favorite gag is the weird. So when Carol's drunk and there's the kid who's been trick or treating, and she goes to her neighbor, and he's like the Tin Man, and then she sees they open the door and it's another guy, but he's painted gold.
Yeah,
That was like, I like lost it.
yeah. Was he the Tin Man, or is he just the guy who's in silver on the street? The guy who's in gold was the guy, right? The street performer guy.
I think he
can't
just
remember.
wanted to be spray painted. Like I don't think.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think he was just like some guy.
That was I agree, that was a funny moment. Yeah, I think my favorite stuff with Donna is with her family in episode 6. And like just the feeling of that realizing Donna has a family she could be with instead of like living alone and going into the office.
Yeah.
But it's like it just feels too late. It feels like you missed it. Yeah, I thought that was very poignant to me.
And and all the stuff she missed when they were growing up.
Yeah, it's like because she missed all this stuff growing up, it doesn't feel like she can be in their lives 100% of the time now.
But then, like, also, like, she did so much for them. Like, I mean, it was just her.
Yeah, and it wasn't her fault that she missed all this. Yeah, so I really liked all that with Donna's family, and I feel like that explains informed who she was a lot as a character. Like a good late add to a character who was already really good before.
And then also the nail gag.
So tell me the nail gag. I forget.
So that was her business. She ran a nail.
Oh, she did. Yeah.
And then she lists all her designs.
All her stuff.
Like,
yeah.
45 minutes. And this is another thing that's great that you could really only do in animation is like as she's talking about them all, they all appear on screen.
Yeah, that's good. I agree. How about the other? Let's go through all the other high concept episodes. Well. Or do you want to talk about other characters that we haven't mentioned? The throuple. What do we think of the joke of Carol's parents joining a throuple with their nurse?
It's a joke, but then they take it very seriously, which I applaud this show for.
It's one of those things where it feels like it's a gag that they chose to treat serious. That they like after the fact said, okay, actually we'll incorporate this into the show.
Like,
probably it was.
Gag is that they're naked.
Yeah. Yeah, but it feels like it's like, oh, they're in a throuple with their nurse at the end of the world, aha. But then it's like a legitimate plot point in the show. Probably they planned it out, but it feels that way, which I think means it was really well written. I feel like the nurse could have been more of a character if we wanted to try.
Also, he ruined their cruise. All of this was his fault.
Why was it his fault?
Because he was giving heartfelt advice to the captain about living your life.
And then when the captain's rowing away, he's like, "Good for him," and I'm like, "You're stupid."
This is true.
I will say the Carol's family is probably the weak like that of the plot lines that we kept coming back to. That was probably my weakest part of the show. Like I don't.
Pirates took over this cruise ship. It's so funny.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling any of that. I'm sorry.
That's valid.
Yeah. I think it was fine. I think they should have done more with the cruise ship stuff. But yeah, I feel like once they're on the cruise ship, nothing that happens after was super vital. But it was fine. But we could.
For me, it was the fact that they followed up. Like I just thought they were just writing them out of the show, but no,
I agree. That's like the joke. Yeah, they're like gone, but no, actually, we're on this cruise and we're gonna do this whole saga with the captain. I think that's
we have to throw in Somalian pirates because that's the thing to do.
Those are the only pirates.
You have Somalian pirates, including I feel like the lead pirate looked like the guy from the movie.
Yes, he did. He absolutely did.
My biggest criticism was that I was just waiting the entire episode for them to say, "I'm the captain now."
Yeah.
And he just never says it.
Never did.
And it's so distracting. Like, you should have just gotten it over with. If you're going to make the guy from the movie.
That is what I disliked the most about it was, like, they're like, okay, we're going to do Somali pirates. And I'm like, okay. But then also Somali pirates do not attack cruise ships.
Yeah. I think they ultimately went in a meaningful direction with it, like with their reaction to the end of the world.
Like, I think doing it where it's like, well, money's useless and we just want to have fun on a cruise, like, that's valid and hilarious. But, like, I do think if they hadn't made the lead guy look like the guy from the movie, it would have been better.
Interesting.
While we're at it of the show referencing movies, the whole Steven and Eric car episode, that's just a goofy movie.
You're right. Oh my God, you're right.
I can't comment on this. I haven't seen it recently enough, but
oh my God, I can't get over this. He's right.
So that's the same episode. That's episode 8 with the cruise ship and Steven and Eric.
Yeah, they just had a movie night when they were writing this episode.
I do not care about Eric.
What about Steven?
Steven's great. Like, I'm okay with Steven.
Yeah.
My favorite part is just that Yum Yulak's voice actor has to be every teenager now. Anne's thing from Adventure Time.
Yes.
But yeah, so did we need to follow up with Eric? This show would, because it follows up with everything.
I just now that I don't like Eric seems like maybe they were gonna do more with him or something. Like he's like
I think what we did with him in 8, again, it's like the same thing with bringing the pirates in. Like what we did was meaningful, and like we got there was a point like they'd had a commentary on these people in this situation, and I do think Eric is like in many ways a very relatable person.
I mean, unfortunately, he gets really depressed after Carol is like, "You're crazy, please back up."
Yeah, but it just feels like Eric. Lots of shows are about Eric's, you know. I think that's kind of it is still meaningful what they did. I would say overall, if we're gonna say the show a little bit lost sight of what it had going in the second half, I think the biggest offenders are episodes 8 and 9. So this 8 one we're talking about, even though I enjoyed it with the Steven and Eric and then the cruise ship, and then 9 with the Carol surfing saga, which I want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. What was this episode? Did you enjoy it? I will say, even though I'm criticizing it, I did enjoy it. So I'm not saying it's bad or anything.
I just thought it was hilarious. So I was just like, it's 'cause I figured the episode was her telling all of this to her parents.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think?
So I went looking around for any explanation on this, and I did find this interview from Dan Guterman, the showrunner, who said, that's one of the episodes where it's like, we're out on a little bit of a limb with it, because there's nothing explained. All of a sudden, there's a fantasy episode in the middle of the season. I'm hoping people will understand and enjoy it and appreciate it for what it is, this sort of curveball left field episode near the end of the season. I don't really understand it. Like, it is a fantasy episode. Like, it's just basically like, hey, we set this up early on that she, lied about surfing, and we'll like come back to let's do this alternate universe thing. I think. And like while watching it for the first time, like I couldn't like turn off my brain of like none of this is happening, none of this is like relevant to the story.
As soon as the episode started, I was like, "This isn't real," and then I just let the episode happen.
Yeah, I wasn't able to turn off my brain on that. I think also like this is the most Carol dialogue of any episode, and like it felt weird to have her talk this much based on what we had seen up to that point in the show. So like I think that there's good bits in it, but like this was just a weird watching experience. For it's like almost a totally different show.
I really respect that in the interview. He's just like, we just wanted to do this random episode. Why not?
Yeah,
I respect that a lot.
I get you want to like experiment and like as seen in the second half of the season, but that like the back to back of 8 to 9, like it's like wow, we're really spending a lot of time away from the setup story we had going on.
Well, especially because like I think episode 7 is one of the best episodes, and then to go into 8 and 9.
Yeah, and well, 7's great, and it does largely not feature. It's somewhat features Carol and the gang, but a lot of it's not about them.
It's like beginning to drift away. Yeah.
It's beginning to, but it feels very meaningful because we ultimately get the backstory for the distraction. Mm-hmm. I'll give my read on 9, but I think ultimately, like, I like what 8 and 9 are doing. I think they're both really well done, meaningful, fun episodes. It's just the experience of like, okay, done with 7, we got the backstory. Now I want to see how this is going to end. There's 3 episodes left. Netflix now is like, you have 3 episodes left. Like, there's 3 episodes left. Okay, 8's not about them at all. 9 features Carol, but it's not really about them at all. And then you start 10, and it's like, here's an HR lady perspective episode. Oh, we're not actually going to get this big ending with our characters. That's like, I think the bad experience. And so I think they're individually really good episodes, but the combination feels like a letdown to the season.
Yeah, I do think. So if we knew we were getting a season 2, we could forgive 9.
Yeah, but it's a limited series, Delaney, remember?
Yeah, I know. Whatever that means.
Yeah, it means no season 2. That's what it means. But if they somehow decided they wanted it, they would just do it, so it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, I do like 9 because I think it's just a funny episode.
Well, here's my read. This is the 9 is it's the platonic ideal of what Carol's life would be if she was a carpe diem person.
Yes.
So it's like if Carol was not like this is who she would be if who she's pretending to be, basically what Delaney said. And I just think it's more commentary on like the absurdity of following the herd to try to find meaning in your life. But so I like it because it cements that theme. Like what I talked about is the number one theme of the show. Yeah, so I think we did that a lot earlier in the season. So it didn't feel super necessary, you know?
I just think it's just more evidence about how gay Carol is.
In what regard?
Carol's just gay. Like, she's in love with Donna. And then, like, made up Missy is, like, 3 other women who surf. Like, she's just gay.
That's an interesting read on that. A surfing thruple, quintuple, whatever.
Also, surfing is a gay activity.
Shout out to that Italian lover she slept with in the middle of that.
Okay. That was also, like, I enjoyed that she just threw that in there.
Anything more on 7 with there's the Golden Harvest Foods Company, and would you just the one guy? I like that the guy wasn't even really a focus of the show. He's just a little bit there in the background.
I just love episodes like this. I just like that it was like these random objects, and then pullbacks. So like I just love stuff like that, and I was also like predicted this would be one of Dylan's favorite episodes, and I was correct.
Yeah, and I think it got there in the end. I love vignettes. I think the first half was a little bit too random with the vignettes. So I was like not feeling it a little bit in the beginning, but I think it got there for me.
There's the one vignette of Luis ice dancing to "I Will Survive." Doesn't really add anything to his character, but like it was nice to look at.
It was just great.
Applause to I think I saw Maya Peterson storyboarded that sequence. Good job. It was nice to watch.
So it's just so funny. And then at the end, that guy just has their little wooden pegs, and he has the brooch.
Yes. Yeah, I forgot about that too. Yeah, that was thrown in there. Favorite episodes? I 7 ultimately, but I feel like my biggest favorites are 4 with the sister, and I said 3 with the establishing the trio, and I also think 6 with the holidays. Those are my ones. What about you guys?
So I wanted to establish that I knew that 4 would be Dylan's favorite.
Yes, that was that was the better call.
Yeah, no, I knew I would text Dylan. I was like, you need to watch Carol, and when you're done, I'll tell you the 2 episodes that are going to be your favorites, and I was right.
What are your favorites though?
My favorites are 3. 3 is really good. I also really like 3 because it's as someone who used to work 12-hour shifts, days and nights, which makes you deranged. This never-ending office shift where they just keep talking and then you become best friends is just so relatable, and it's just what happens. So I really enjoyed that, and then also like just getting all of them together.
Nice.
I also 7 is I really enjoyed 7, and then 10 is actually one of my favorites. I really enjoyed the finale.
Yeah, me too. I love HR Lady. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, my 2 favorites are episode 4, especially on second watch. I think first watch I liked it, but on second watch I really appreciated what it was doing. And episode 10, I think that the reason I would recommend this strongly is because it does end on a really good note. So it as we talk through the themes, it all comes together in that final episode. So it's able to recover from the episodes 8 and 9 drifting, because 10 pulls you back in all the way really effectively. So I think that this is one of the better series finale. If it's a series finale, this is one of the better ones you'll see. Based on what it's built up.
Lacking anything. Show's over, and obviously I want more, but I'm also okay that there's not more.
Yeah, were we okay with it ending there, not actually seeing what's them closer to the end? You know.
Yeah,
Do
I
we?
think it's the platonic ideal of a quote unquote limited series where like there is definitely room to explore further if you want to, but if it just ends up being this was a great enclosed story and like
And
it,
like, and we know how it ends.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm fine with I'm fine with this how it ends. I think the only thing is like you see the countdown clock on the show like every
Yes.
episode, and it
Yes.
like never and it never makes it past
Yeah.
4 months. So it's a little bit like
Give us
but
more. You're holding
yeah,
it back.
it's just like I need to see it hit. If you're gonna give me a countdown, I it needs to hit one, or
Yes.
else I'm gonna feel
Yeah, it
bad.
needs to be like last day. Like, come on.
Yeah, well, I will
But
say, like with those titles that kept coming up, I didn't really feel the passage of time that much. Like it very well, like without you could have taken those titles out and just been like, this is all happening continuously, and I wouldn't have really noticed the difference.
That's fair.
I think I agree with that. Yeah, it was like kind of shocking when it was a little bit longer of a period that passed by.
I do want to say number 5 is also when she learns everyone's names and they like take David's body everywhere. I also really like that episode, but it's like more like a runner-up episode. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and also shout out to the first 2 episodes, also very good.
Yeah,
This
that pilot episode is a great intro to this whole world. Like it gets you in very quickly, especially into like getting a sense of who Carol is and why you can like root for her very very quickly.
And then, I mean, her going to all the Office Depots and then like stealing the toner.
Yeah, there is at gunpoint takes the toner.
It's so funny.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh, I forgot about the gun, but how could I forget when she threatens with it? You know?
And then she threatens Steven, and Steven's like, "Oh my god!" But then that's also like,
Steven.
yeah, don't why?
I forgot Steven was there too. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, maybe, and yeah, they kind of led up to like because someone was following her, and it was Steven.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also, yeah, your dad shouldn't have attached to like this random crazy lady because like she's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
In
also
a good
funny
way.
because she's like apologizing the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
And of course, my favorite gag that they do all the time. It's like this guy doesn't speak, and he's like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah, that's a common one, but that it worked pretty well there.
Like, classic.
Nice. Let me see what we haven't talked about yet.
One
Go
like
ahead.
minor detail since we brought up episode 5 with the David's body and the funerals and stuff. They go to the Uncle Charlie funeral. I like tried to zoom in on the like memorial thing they had, and I think I read that the Uncle Charlie died in 2002. So does this take place in
Yes.
2002?
No, this does. No. So, that's something I think I don't know if I thought they didn't, they established that, like, I thought this show took place in the 90s.
Okay. Yeah,
I,
because I was like thinking like there's not that many time indicators in this show. Like you have Elena using the portable video camera
Yeah.
to film things, and that's kind of the only like major piece of technology you really like pay attention to. Even the
And there
and like the
aren't
office
phones.
computers are like generically old,
Yeah.
but like they could exist in the
But
2010s.
I thought there was something in the first episode, or there's like a calendar, I thought.
Oh, there might be, and I just didn't see it. But yeah, I just saw like, oh, like that's kind of it doesn't really impact the story at all, but it's just interesting to choose 2002 as like,
No, that's
as
what
like
I
your
thought. What was
apocalypse
interesting
story.
about this show is that it's set in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I also either noticed the same thing as Alex or something else, and I at some point I was like, oh, I guess it takes place in the earlier mid 2000s, but it also doesn't really matter to what's going on.
Yeah,
and I
no,
don't think
not with the
I don't
show.
think they need you to know it.
Yeah,
And maybe
yeah.
I wonder if they just said it earlier so that they didn't have to deal with cell phones. I don't know if we have cell phones at any point, but it would change a lot of apocalypse dynamic things. I think as people would be filming TikToks and stuff. I don't know if we want to get into that.
Oh my god, apocalypse TikToks.
That is interesting. I do think in
I
terms
think
of
part of it was like an aesthetic choice.
yeah, probably true. I think in terms of like what there was maybe room for more of, we could have delved more into the world. I feel like, we pretty much hone in on the distraction.
Like, I
and
would have liked to do more. Like, obviously they weren't major characters, but like when the scientist and the one guy are hanging out in that big
Oh yeah,
I
I
would
don't even
have.
remember when that was.
That
It
was
was
one of the
one of the
vignettes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, from yeah.
So I thought that would have been cool, like to explore like one of the scientists or something.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think in episode 1 you like get the TV montage of establishing the world through all the programs, and it definitely feels we get more world building early on, and then we kind of hold where we are, which is fine. Overall, I think it definitely feels like, I don't know if this is true. It feels like they wrote the first 5 episodes and then later, wrote the last 5 episodes.
Maybe.
No, I don't know if it's true, but it really feels like that.
It definitely feels different.
Yeah. That being said, there's great stuff in the last 5 episodes, Great stuff. Just not, I guess, overall the most cohesive show in the end when we start bouncing around, which is fine. I don't think this needs to be the number one cohesive show.
Yeah, I think I would have preferred more stuff with Carol.
Or Luis,
Yeah, no, Luis definitely got shafted.
I mean, he was the third in the trio. Don also didn't get too much stuff other than...
I don't know. I just felt like what we got with Donna was just more than what we got with Luis.
Yeah, I agree. We could have done more. I think we got Don and Luis in 6. We could have had them maybe in 8 or something instead of there. But
instead of hanging out with Eric.
Yeah, I do think there's good stuff there, though. Delaney, any other things coming to mind that we didn't talk about?
What happened to her car? I don't remember.
The battery died in the Applebee's, and they said get out, and then she just never retrieved it. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's because I just rewatched episode 1 today. I don't remember if they followed up on it.
Okay, no, because she was just using the motorcycle, and they bitched her out about it. They were like, "You've been using the motorcycle."
Yeah, it's like, oh, did they even know that she took the company
it's so
car?
Funny that's the company vehicle.
Yeah, that was very good. And they're like, oh, actually, we did notice, and it's in your HR report at the end. That was very good. Yeah. Alex, anything else we haven't talked about?
Yeah, with the Eric episode, that trail mits looked nasty. That was the most unappealing food sequence I've ever
not
seen.
eating anything out of a garbage bag. I'm not eating it.
I don't even have a problem with the garbage bag part. It's just the actual ingredient mix was terrible.
I'm interested. I'll just say I'm interested in weird trail mixes.
There was a point where I was like, "This is okay," and then it went off.
Yeah, no, it went too far. I agree, but at some point, just in general, an extensive trail mix.
Yeah.
I like the concept, and then we went for comedic effect.
Yes.
Large, yeah. Yeah, I think we hit the big things. Any other random gags? I mean, I didn't write. Apparently, there's a lot of vignettes I forgot about. So there's probably some stuff there we haven't talked about.
My favorite vignette is the coffee guy and his scarf.
Oh yeah,
poor guy.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, and he brings the coffee. Was that okay? When was that set in time? Do you want to get into that?
What do you mean?
Is he still delivering coffee? Is this? I forget.
That's a good question. I think so. Yeah, I think he gives Carol a coffee.
Oh, it does. Okay. Yeah, so it is post distraction.
Yes. No, because he shows up, but it's a day off.
Okay. There you go.
And Carol complains. She's like, "Oh, it's Saturday."
Well, and also he's having to jump into the cafes and make the coffees himself because there's nobody running the cafes anymore, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gotta say, can't relate to the not wanting to go into work it being a weekend and wanting to work and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's not.
Well, they cut twice to this lady who's about to set fire to the lobby because she doesn't want to leave. It's like, wow.
But it's like, this is so not me, but I feel like that could be me in this circumstance, maybe it could.
Yeah, we're all going to be different people when the giant planet is going to come hurtling for Saul. We don't know what we're going to react like.
That's true.
Or she goes on the whole adventure for the toner, and it's in the building.
Yeah.
And it's in the building, yeah. That's good too. Delaney, last thoughts on Carol and the End of the World.
I really enjoyed it. I like the aesthetic of the show, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad you guys watched so that we could podcast on it. Yeah, no,
Nice.
I really enjoyed it. It was kind of like a comfort show. And also it's not too usual that I take initiative and watch a show and then I bug the hell out of Dylan about it.
Yeah, I don't. You watch this right away. That never happens.
And I was like, Dylan, have you watched it yet? Dylan. And so no, because I've been excited for it to come out, and it was different than I had expected. Granted, I don't know really what I expected, but I really enjoyed it though.
It's interesting that you say it's a comfort show because it's like very uncomfortable
know.
things happening. But I feel like there's comfort in feeling seen in various aspects that are not typically
Yes.
seen.
Also,
You know?
it's like I don't know, like nothing really awful happens
Yeah, true.
other than the fact that the world's ending, but that's like a background issue. I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I just thought it was I don't know. I guess as someone as someone with a lot of anxiety about like the state of the world, watching a show like this was kind of cathartic. Maybe I should email my therapist about it.
No, but that's how I feel about like apocalypse shows. Honestly, there's
Yeah.
something cathartic about not having to deal with.
I just don't
seeing
like
society.
zombies. I don't like zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, a lot of them are zombies. That
Yeah,
is true.
it's a big turn off for me. I don't like zombies.
Very sad.
And like I feel like with apocalypse shows, like there is often the idea of like we have to band together to protect ourselves or to make it out. But like this is a different kind of like we're banding together because like that's what feels natural to us. Like there are other people who are just going on their own and they're fine. But like, what if I just want to have friends to have regular conversations?
Go to Applebee's with.
Like it feels so much more lower stakes, but like attainable to current self than like what other apocalypse shows would do with these particular themes. So like, I think that helps to make it feel like a cozy show.
I need to find something to occupy myself because I'm gonna die in 8 months. So like, I need something to do until then.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. And Alex, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just that I hope we've communicated well why this show in particular feels so different from a lot of the adult animation that's out there, and I hope people give it a shot because like it's a unique flavor and one that I think comes at a very useful time for a lot of us. And it's just nice to have this counterpoint to maybe some more cynical dystopian stuff that's out there in the world right now.
Also, make more weird shows. Like, this is such a weird show conceptually. Like, just make more weird shows. It doesn't have to be like haha funny or like I don't know. Just make more weird shows.
Yeah, no, I overall just love that this exists. Scavenger's Reign, etc. Like the fact that in this terrible state of the animation industry that these weird shows are getting made is incredible. So glad Carol exists, especially with like what it has to say. It is so unique. I think my recommendation to getting weird shows made would be pitch them as a limited series because I think places like Netflix just don't want to have to be pressured to greenlight a season 2. So I would say just
like what you can't get anything made past season 3 these days.
You can't do it anyway. Like if you're lucky, you'll get a season 2. So just make it a 1-season show. Just do your weirdest thing, and they might do it.
Go all in.
So Scavengers was also marketed as a limited series, right?
Yeah, you got that feeling even though they say they want a season 2. So it's.
Next on my list after I finish Pantheon.
What great choices. Neither, especially Scavengers, not comfy. But in a good way. Very different shows, all great. I also want to say I felt the show was very melancholy, and I really like melancholy feeling shows. Frieren the anime, my other fave melancholy show. So I'm liking this era. And even though it is,
I want to be sad.
Yeah, but it's not like straight depressed, but like wistful. I love wistful kind of shows.
There we go. That makes sense.
Yeah, that kind of melancholy. And I thought it was great and something I think you might revisit too, to get this feeling of what it has to say and it kind of feels to watch this type of show. So
I think Carol has a good chance of winning our pro tag in the OVEs.
yeah, well, we're not doing them, but she would be a good nomination.
Hypothetical of 2023, I get, because this was a
It was last year. Yeah. Carol, Maine, Donna supporting, honorable mention Luis. Yeah, there you go. They're all great. Good stuff with the Carol discussion. Let us know what you thought of what we talked about, what you thought of the show, what you thought of any of the other shows we mentioned as well. Since we're not covering everything, you can also sound off there in the comments at overlyanimated.com, youtube.com/overlyanimated. And what other shows like this should we talk about, etc. Let us know. And you can consider supporting us at Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Kent, and thanks as always to our patron executive producers, Steve, Michael, and Phoenician. So, yep, check out other discussions we've done at overlyanimated.com, not covering everything, but we've done some good stuff like Hilda and Adventure Time, Fiona and Cake, and a lot of Ladybug podcasts. Check all that out at overlyanimated.com. Some more stuff coming up eventually here. And I don't know, what's the next show like Carol coming out? I'm not sure, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess they're pretty rare, these adult shows, so we will see. It's also stuff to catch up on. But yes, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.